Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a kind and beautiful queen named Snow White. She had skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. But despite her beauty, the queen's heart was filled with sadness, for she longed for a child of her own. One winter's day, as the queen sat sewing by the window, she pricked her finger with the needle, and 3 drops of blood fell onto the freshly fallen snow. "Oh, how I wish for a daughter as fair as snow, with lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony," she whispered, her voice filled with longing. To the queen's delight, her wish was granted, and she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. The queen named her daughter Snow White, in honor of the winter's day she was born. But tragedy struck when the queen fell ill and passed away, leaving Snow White alone in the care of her father, the king. The king, heartbroken by the loss of his beloved wife, remarried a vain and wicked queen who cared only for her own beauty. The new queen's jealousy of Snow White's beauty grew with each passing day, until one day, she ordered her huntsman to take Snow White into the forest and kill her. But the huntsman couldn't bring himself to do it, and instead let Snow White go, warning her never to return to the kingdom. Lost and alone in the forest, Snow White stumbled upon a small cottage hidden among the trees. She knocked on the door, and when no one answered, she went inside and found 7 small beds, each with its own colorful quilt. To her surprise, Snow White discovered that the cottage belonged to 7 dwarfs who worked in the nearby mines. When the dwarfs returned home, they were startled to find Snow White asleep in their beds, but they welcomed her with open arms when they learned of her plight. Meanwhile, back at the castle, the wicked queen learned from her magic mirror that Snow White was still alive and more beautiful than ever. Consumed by jealousy, she disguised herself as an old peddler woman and set off to find Snow White and put an end to her once and for all. When the wicked queen arrived at the cottage, she offered Snow White a poisoned apple disguised as a gift of friendship. Snow White, unaware of the queen's true identity, took a bite of the apple and fell into a deep sleep. The dwarfs returned home to find Snow White lying motionless on the floor, the poisoned apple still clutched in her hand. They tried everything to wake her, but nothing worked. Heartbroken, they placed her in a glass coffin and mourned her loss. But fate had other plans in store for Snow White. One day, a prince from a neighboring kingdom stumbled upon the glass coffin in the forest and was captivated by Snow White's beauty. With a gentle kiss, he broke the spell, and Snow White awoke from her enchanted sleep. Snow White and the prince were married in a grand ceremony attended by all the inhabitants of the kingdom. The wicked queen, consumed by jealousy and rage, met her fate when she was banished from the kingdom forever. And so, Snow White and her prince lived happily ever after, ruling the kingdom with kindness and compassion, while the memory of their adventures lived on in the hearts of all who heard their tale. The end.